William Scott was Erie's very own Citizen Kane, an entrepreneur, a politician, and a millionaire. The word millionaire first appeared in print in the United States in 1843. By the end of the 19th century, millionaire was a part of the American lexicon and used to describe the most powerful men of the day: Cornelius Vanderbilt, John D. Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie, and William L. Scott. At the time of his death, Scott's fortune was estimated at $15 million, or about $10 billion today. Scott's story is an American story. It's a rags-to-riches tale that began on the streets of Washington, D.C. and continued to the highest seats of corporate and political power. Scott's family built America. They settled the colony of Virginia, fought the War of Independence, and were decorated for valor during the War of 1812. Born in 1828 in the District of Columbia, Scott's childhood was carefree and comfortable. That ended with the death of both of his parents. Scott and his siblings were raised in separate homes. Orphaned, he was forced to accept a common school education, spending all his free time as a Washington, D.C. street peddler. His big break came with a job offer to be a page in the U.S. Congress. His family grooming and manners distinguished him from other pages, and soon he had offers from many of the representatives to join their staffs. Scott chose to work for Charles Reed. Reed mentored the boy and hired him as a warehouse clerk for Reed Shipping on Erie's Bayfront. To Scott, Reed's success was infectious. He lived in an age of unlimited wealth and manifest destiny. So at 22, Scott set out on his own. He formed the W.L. Scott Company, whose principal interests were mining and shipping. In a few years, Scott owned more than 70,000 acres of coal fields in Pennsylvania, Illinois, Iowa, and Missouri, making him the second largest coal producer in the country. The company also owned interests in railroads and built lines throughout the Eastern Corridor, constructing the first rail line to stretch all the way to the Missouri River. W.L. Scott and Company employed over 12,000 people. He eventually owned almost 15% of the country's tracks, 22,000 miles. Scott married Mary Tracy, the granddaughter of Daniel Dobbins. Their daughter Annie married Charles Strong, merging three great Erie families. Scott loved horses and horse racing. He bred some of the best racehorses in the world. He also loved Erie, calling it his beautiful city. In Erie, he built buildings, endowed hospitals, schools, and orphanages. He served 2 terms as Erie's mayor and 2 terms in Congress, ending his career where it began. Scott died at 63. His funeral was lavish, attended by Erie's most honored and distinguished citizens. The President of the United States and Pennsylvania's governor were pallbearers. At the time of his death, Scott was director of 22,000 miles of railroad, and his coal holdings were the second largest in the United States. At his funeral, he was christened America's Railroad King as well as its Coal King.